Welcome, everyone, to the Action Network podcast. This is Action Network's fourth annual Giffen Guide to March Madness. What this is a way to bet March Madness that combines some Cinderella stories, some fun upside, while risking just a little bit, to minimize any potential losses should we have a down year. But I think we're going to have a great year. Last year's Giffen Guide to March Madness in 2024, we nailed NC State. Yes, my Wolfpack. I went to grad school at NC State. We got them all the way to the Elite Eight, and they continued on to the Final Four in this Giffen Guide to March Madness, providing us with a hugely successful year for year three here at Action Network. So to break it down, what we do here is we typically like to risk 2 units and we spread it across 8 picks. So 2 units divided by 8, that's a quarter unit across each pick. That minimizes, the amount that we're going to lose. But if we nail one of these 8 picks and get them to advance at least 3 rounds, that should at worst break us back even. But typically, especially in the case of hitting a team like NC State, give us a pretty significant profit on our investment. We're always going to look at it 5 seeds or longer, typically in that 5 to 12 range. Occasionally we'll get a 13 or a 14 seed, although spoiler alert, none this year that long. And again, we're just trying to find them to get 3 rounds of advancement. The reason we do this is it is better to bet these teams on the money line. Then if they win, you take your original bet plus the amount you won on the money line, and you bet them on the money line in the next game. This money line rollover strategy is actually more profitable almost always, like 98+% of the time, than just betting a future on this team. If, sports books offer a future to get to the Elite Eight, this money line rollover strategy is typically more profitable because books hold more on the Elite Eight futures than they do on a single money line bet. Even when you compound 3 money line bets, the hold is less than on an Elite Eight future. So that's the strategy here. And I don't want to delay this any further. I do want to get to the picks. But before that, of course, March Madness is here, and now is a great time to become an Action Pro subscriber. Because this season, our predictive analytics kingpin, Sean Kerner, will again release his full bracket simulations, but it's only for pro subscribers. So if you want Sean's bracket simulations, access to our tournament systems, and player prop projections across every single March Madness game, go to actionnetwork.com/March to sign up and take advantage of a very special price. Just $68 for a full year of Action Pro access. That's actionnetwork.com/March for a full year of Action Pro, including all of our March Madness benefits, plus NFL, college football, baseball, and everything else, all for just $68. All right, so let's get into the picks. And again, before I do, I just want to preview something because 2025 is probably going to be the hardest year yet for the Giffen Guide to March Madness. And the reason is the number 1 seeds. The 4 number 1 seeds of Duke, Houston, Florida, and Auburn are 4 of the 6 most highest rated 1 seeds in at least a decade, which is absolutely crazy because they're all 4 in this year out of multiple years of 4 1 seeds. So these 4 1 seeds being so incredibly strong is going to push us in a little bit of a convoluted direction with these picks. I'll explain everything, of course, and I'm going to start in the Midwest region. Now, look, if we have 4 regions, right? We have a top and a bottom half of each region where there's the 1 seed side and the 2 seed side. Well, in the Midwest region, this is the only region, I should say, where I'm going to be targeting the 1 seed side. And since I'm not going to be targeting the 1 seeds in the other regions, we're going to have to double up in certain octants, certain halves of a region. So let's start in the Midwest again, and we're going to go right to the first 4 game. It is a bit of a choose your own adventure. I'm going to call this pick number 1, choose your own adventure between the first 4 game of Xavier and Texas. These two teams are playing as the 11 seeds for the right to advance and face Illinois. And what we're doing here by taking these 11 seeds, we're going to be targeting the 6 seed Illinois and the 3 seed Kentucky, who are two highly variable teams, very inconsistent teams. And my power ratings, which I lean on very heavily for this Giffen Guide to March Madness, has Illinois graded pretty fairly as a borderline 5-6 seed, but Kentucky also actually, the 3 seed, grades out as a borderline 5 or 6 seed. So we're targeting one of the weaker 3 seeds here in this region by going with either Xavier or Texas. So there's a couple options here. And this is why I say choose your own adventure. I'll give you my preferred path, but I don't necessarily love my path. It is very difficult. So I want you to take your option with Xavier or Texas. And the two options are you can play them from the first 4 game on Wednesday night and moneyline roll either Xavier or Texas, your preference, over to the Sweet 16. So if they make it to the Sweet 16, right, they won their first 4 game, their round 1 game, and their round 2 game. That's the 3-round advancement that we need. The other option, you could wait, see which of Xavier or Texas emerges, and you can do the money line rollover starting from round 1, but then we need to get them to the Elite 8. And in this case, we're targeting the 2 seed Tennessee as the next round. And we like targeting slow-paced teams because the fewer possessions minimizes the efficiency advantage, the amount of times they have a per possession efficiency advantage. And Tennessee is one of the bottom 20 pace teams in the nation here. So that is your other option. If you want to wait and see which of Xavier or Texas emerges, you can moneyline roll them over from the official first round to the Elite 8. Me personally, I'm going to go from the first 4 to the Sweet 16. And the only reason I'm choosing Texas, I think Xavier's the better team, but the only reason I'm choosing Texas here is because at the time that, we're recording this, we're releasing this, plus 140 on the money line is just a bit too long. I have this closer to about plus 125 as fair value. So I'm going to roll Texas over on the money line from the first 4 all the way to the Sweet 16 as my first pick. For my second pick in this region, we are doubling up on that Tennessee side of the bracket, and I'm going to take the 7 seed UCLA Bruins as my next pick. In the first round, I actually don't like UCLA here, but this isn't a 1-game play. This is a 3-game play, and UCLA is set up better than Utah State, the 10 seed there, to beat Tennessee. And the reason is UCLA is also slow paced. So we get a slow paced UCLA who's bottom 65 in pace against a plodding Tennessee team that's bottom 20 in pace, really limiting the number of possessions that Tennessee gets to realize their efficiency advantage. That creates added variance, and we like added variance when we're taking underdogs. From there, again, we target Kentucky and Illinois, who both grade as borderline 5 or 6 seeds, and UCLA was actually ranked in the preseason higher than both Kentucky and Illinois. That might sound silly. Why are you looking at preseason rankings? Well, preseason rankings have predictive power. This has been shown year in and year out multiple times for the NCAA tournament that preseason rankings do matter. And when I factor that in, it gives us a little bit of a sneaky edge on taking UCLA over Kentucky or Illinois there. So UCLA on the money line from the first round to the Elite 8 as my second pick here in the Midwest region. My third pick is also in the Midwest region, but this time we're going to the top half of the region. The only time we're targeting a 1 seed here, and we are targeting Houston as the 1 seed. And this is a bit of a special strategy as well. I told you this is going to be a convoluted Giffen guide because of the scary nature of these 1 seeds. So what we're doing here for pick number 3 is we're taking the quarter unit and we're splitting that on 2 teams, 2 1/8 unit bets. And I'm going to bet on Purdue, the number 4 seed, and Clemson, the number 5 seed, to cover the spread in their first round game, a quarter unit total, so an 1/8 of a unit on each. What that does is this leaves us 3 options. Either both fail to cover the spread, in that case, we're out our quarter unit, and this pick is a loss. If both cover the spread in their first round game, We cash that out and we make a little bit less than, a half a unit, right? The minus 110 VIG would put this at about 0.455 units profit. The third option is one of these teams covers and one of these teams does not cover. In that case, the most likely scenario is they still would play each other. Just, that one team didn't cover the spread as like a 10 or 15 point favorite in that neighborhood, and the other didn't. So they'd be playing each other. What we're going to do is, since we essentially break even, we lose, 0.02 units or something like that. We're just going to redeploy a quarter unit on the team that covered the spread to beat moneyline the other team, right? So if Clemson covers the spread and Purdue doesn't, and they face each other, we're going to redeploy a quarter unit on Clemson moneyline versus Purdue, and vice versa. If Purdue covers and Clemson doesn't, redeploy a quarter unit on Purdue versus Clemson moneyline. However, if the covering team ends up facing, one of these 14 or type seeds, the upset here with McNeese State or High Point, then we'll just redeploy that quarter unit as a spread bet against either McNeese State or High Point, and then continue the money line rollover to the Elite Eight, where either Purdue or Clemson is likely to face Houston, but also potentially Gonzaga, a very strong 8 seed that would face Houston in the second round should the Zags get past Georgia. So in this case, both Clemson or Purdue would be an underdog to either Houston or Gonzaga, which would give us that nice plus money. And then hopefully we can get that money line win there with Purdue or Clemson. What I really like here, Houston as the 1 seed, a very slow paced team, just like Tennessee. And both Purdue and Clemson are also relatively slow-paced teams. So again, we're limiting the possessions here that Houston gets their efficiency advantage. So those first 3 picks are for the Midwest region. Now we're going to move on to the South region. For my first pick in the South region, the 4th pick for this Giffen Guide to March Madness, we're going back to the first 4. So you're going to want to get on this right away because we're starting with tonight's game between UNC and San Diego State, and I am taking North Carolina, the North Carolina Tar Heels, as the 11 seed right away from the first 4. This is a team, North Carolina, that is only 1-12 in quad 1 games. That sounds terrible, but they are on a bit of a rebound. They are 7-2 in their last 9 games straight up. The only 2 losses they had were to the number 1 overall seed Duke by an average of just 8 points over those 2 games. During that 9-game span, they've climbed from 47th to 33rd in the KenPom rankings. And I actually think they're going to climb a little bit further, maybe closer towards their preseason KenPom ranking of 15. And their, preseason poll ranking was actually inside the top 10. So again, another little bit of using our statistical prior on this team, showing an improvement here. This improvement is also coincided with their lineup changes. They went from Seth Trimble to Drake Powell in the starting lineup, and they went from Ian Jackson to Jalen Withers in the starting lineup. Both have been improvements just in terms of player efficiency, and that has translated to team efficiency here. So we can play them money line tonight versus San Diego State at anything minus 185 or better, maybe minus 180 if there is that out there. However, if you can't get better than minus 185, play them on the spread versus San Diego State. I was able to get them on the money line at minus 182. So that is my play here. And then from there, if they win, they'll be facing Ole Miss. Ole Miss, this game, they would be a coin flip. So we're going to money line them against Ole Miss. And then most likely they're going to face Iowa State, the 3 seed. However, Iowa State is very banged up. Keshawn Gilbert out for the year. Tamin Lipsey questionable for the first couple of rounds. So this is a good spot to target a 3 seed that is banged up. And we just need to get to the Sweet 16 because we're starting from the first 4 here. So that's the 3 games. UNC on the money line or to cover the spread in the first round, and then on the money line to the Sweet 16. For my second pick here in this South region, 5th overall pick, I am taking the 7 seed Marquette, the Golden Eagles. And here I am targeting the 2 seed Michigan State. Michigan State was unranked in the preseason. When teams are a 1 seed or a 2 seed and they're unranked in the preseason, they struggle in the NCAA tournament. failing to make the Sweet 16 quite frequently. So Marquette is the team that is best set up here to do that instead of the 10 seed New Mexico Lobos. And that's because New Mexico pushes pace. And that's not what we want when we're an underdog. We don't want more possessions to realize the efficiency disadvantage for the underdog. So I prefer going with Marquette here. And this game versus New Mexico, close enough that we can just moneyline roll over Marquette, moneyline roll them over versus Michigan State, and then moneyline roll them over again to the Elite Eight. So we have 5 picks down, 2 regions down. We've got 2 regions to go, and I'm going to move on to the West region. Just 1 pick in this region. Again, targeting the 2 side of the bracket, the 2-seeded side. And I'm going to take the Kansas Jayhawks as another 7 seed here. Kansas, number 1 in the preseason ranking. So again, a nice, strong statistical prior here on the Kansas Jayhawks who, they've struggled. They're only 7-7 in their last 14 games in the win-loss column, but this is still a very strong team, and they match up well on their first round game against the 10 seed Arkansas Razorbacks. Kansas, not a good free throw shooting team, but Arkansas doesn't foul at a high rate. So that negates, Kansas's offensive weakness and plays towards Kansas's offensive strengths instead. Defensively, on the flip side, also a good matchup here for Kansas because Kansas is a great shot-stopping team, and Kansas also does not foul, and that negates Arkansas's strengths, which is shot making and free throw making. If you're not putting them on the line, they're not making free throws, and you're a great shot-stopping team, well, that's going to hurt a very good shooting team. Then they would face St. John's as the number 2 seed. But like Michigan State, St. John's was an unranked 2 seed in the preseason. Again, failing that trend. Our own Evan Abrams of Action Network actually posted this trend out in his article. So we love targeting these preseason unranked 1 or 2 seeds. So we love targeting St. John's here. And then again, we'll moneyline roll over Kansas all 3 games from the first round to the Elite Eight. So that's our only pick there. In the West region, we have one final region, and that is the East region. And I'm going to go to the number 11 seed here, the VCU Rams. And a little bit near and dear to my heart, right? I had NC State last year. That was the team I went with, and I went to grad school there. Well, my youngest brother went to VCU. So this is not a homer pick. This is made with my brain, but VCU, very, very good team, criminally underseeded as an 11 seed. I have them actually as more like an 8 seed. And my power ratings make VCU a 1.25 point underdog to BYU here. So we got the 3-letter, abbreviation teams. And while this may not be the most neutral spot with VCU heading to Denver to face BYU, who's, just only a state over in Utah as their home, this home court advantage, doesn't really apply for BYU because they rely on home court so much that even moving over to Denver negates their big home court advantage. And VCU is a team traditionally that doesn't really need home court advantage. They've been pretty good at neutral sites and on the road relative to what they do at home as well. So, I have them as a 1.25 point underdog at a neutral. If you want to give BYU a little bit of a home court bump here, just because, VCU is traveling to Denver, a little bit of altitude, sure, but I cannot get to the 3.5 point spread where this thing stands. VCU, a fantastic defense, and I think they're poised to make a great run through their portion of the bracket. So we're moneyline rolling over VCU, the VCU Rams, from the Elite first round to the Elite Eight. For the last pick of the Giffen Guide to March Madness, we are going to go to the other half of that region. We'll be targeting the 2 seed again, and I'm going to take the St. Mary's Gales here. And this is a team, remember last year in the Giffen Guide to March Madness, we targeted to lose. We had Grand Canyon beating St. Mary's, and Grand Canyon did beat St. Mary's. Now I'm flipping the script, and I'm targeting St. Mary's because I really need to find a team that can beat Alabama. And I think St. Mary's is poised to do that. The Gales play at a plodding pace, extremely slow, 6th slowest adjusted tempo nationally. And that should keep the up-tempo Crimson Tide, Alabama, that 2 seed there, in check while doing defensively exactly what Alabama doesn't want to see. St. Mary's takes away the three-point shot, whereas Alabama relies specifically on the three-point shot and also getting to the rim, which is another strength of St. Mary's defense. So being able to take down Alabama is a big key. So we're going to play St. Mary's on the money line again from round 1 to the Elite 8 to complete the 8 picks for the 2025 Giffen Guide to March Madness. So hopefully we'll hit another one this year. It's going to be a tough road, tough sledding, but I feel pretty good, honestly, especially about that St. Mary's pick at the end. Before we go, just want to remind you all that we do have our player prop podcasts coming on the Action Network YouTube channel at 3:30. We're going to have Eric Bamford and Mike Calabrese giving out some props. And then at 5:30 p.m. Eastern time, myself with our Director of Predictive Analytics, Sean Kerner, will be giving our favorite player props as well for the first round games. So that's going to do it for the 2025 Giffen Guide to March Madness. Thanks for tuning in and good luck. Have a great March Madness, everyone.